Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Ketodonis podcast. This is episode 3. Here we are just following up with the second half of our interview with our guest, Luis Villasenor from Keto Gains. And I think we really get into some good content. If you haven't listened to the first half of the episode, go back to episode 2. Check that out. It's really good, and it's really going to be the primer for the second half where we kind of really dive into some things and get heavy on some philosophy that if you didn't listen to part 1 might be a little bit lost on. We don't go into the weeds too much, but anyways, yeah, if you haven't listened to that, go check out the first half of the episode on episode 2. And so to give a little bit of a check-in for those folks that are watching the video version of the podcast, you can see I'm rocking a pretty sweet Magnum PI Ron Swanson-esque mustache. It got a little hot for the full beard for me. So anyways, so that's a little bit new. Also, kind of give accountability of where I'm at. I am hovering right now down at about 303. Now that was exciting for me because that marks the 50 pounds down, and so I've really lost 10 pounds pretty quickly recently, and then I've kind of maintained at that where I'm getting back into fine tuning some things. I'm just started using Chronometer that we talked about in episode 1 with Marty Kendall, and going to be recording a lot more, tracking a lot more of my diet, of my macros and my micronutrient content and all that. So, and in preparing for a Keto Gains boot camp, which we will talk about in this episode. Actually, I went ahead and signed up for a Keto Gains boot camp coming up here. I believe it starts July 24th. And so I'm already signed up with that. So any ketodonist listeners that want to sign up with me and help keep each other accountable, feel free to look into that. I will have the links to the Keto Gains Bootcamp website in the show notes. And we'll also talk a little bit about the boot camps in this episode as well with Luis. So if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. I don't know how many spots are left because they do fill up, and there's only a finite amount of people that they take. So get in while you can if you want to. So right now, sitting at 303, really going to be cranking it up. I do have some travel coming up with basically the next 6 weeks. So that's going to make things difficult, but I'm really going to try to prepare the best that I can and do plenty of meal preps, train the way that I need to, probably incorporate some intermittent fasting to help negate crappy food while on the road. So anyway, without further ado, here is the second half of our interview with Luis Villasenor. Enjoy. Groups and all that stuff, and Keto Gains has had a reputation of being high protein, which kind of, now that I understand the science of proteins and the reason why your guys' recommendations are that, it kind of drives me bonkers. I'm sure it drives you up the wall too, that it has this reputation, considering that, like you said, 0.8 grams of lean body mass is not that much. And if I remember correctly, because one of the books I read, started reading when I did a deep dive in this 5 or 6 years ago, was Stephen Finney and Jeff Volek's book, Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living, and then their follow-up book on exercise, Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance, and they were recommending something pretty similar.
Our recommendations actually come based on Dr. Finney's and Volek's books.
Yeah.
As well as recent recommendations by the ISSA and ISSN and etc. It's like the minimal amount of protein suggested by various studies to maintain lean mass.
Yep.
Basically that. We're not making things up. even on Jimmy Moore's Keto Clarity, if you actually go and read his recommendations and do the calculations he suggests, they are basically, we're talking about 5 or 10 grams of difference.
Yeah.
So it's not high protein.
Yeah.
The thing about a high protein is because there are very negative people out there who don't like to be corrected.
Yeah.
And they take correction as insult. And we are not enemies with anybody. I don't consider myself a negative person or someone who likes to pick fights.
Yeah.
But we said, we are direct. So if you are saying something that is wrong, we're going to tell you so.
Yeah.
And we will use science. And if I'm wrong, I would like to debate, and you can correct me, and I will accept any corrections.
Yeah.
But there are people who don't accept that, and that's and also because we like to pick heavy things and we suggest heavy strength training, not because we are bodybuilders, but because we believe that strength training, again, that disuse principle, is fundamental towards health. I'm also going to throw you this one of the pages. I don't remember in which bootcamp you were, but if you were on the one that we talked about, the fitness wellness continuum, this is something very interesting that people have to understand. This is a thing called the fitness wellness continuum. So normally people achieve to be well. If you get sick, well, you get sick. It's like a pendulum, right?
Yeah. It's a spectrum that folks lay on. Yeah.
Exactly. So normally people are well. If you are fit and you get sick, you have this buffer and you get to be well, but you never really get sick. So we, by doing strength training, it's the best way, bar none, to get to a fitness state. Cardio is not optimal. Cardio works for other things. It can improve. Like, that's why you see fat people, and no discredit to that, winning marathons and doing triathlons. And so if you do cardio, it works and you become better at moving your body, more efficient. But it's not a great way to actually burn fat. When you do strength training, what happens is there's a host of changes inside your body. Both they're called neuroendocrine adaptations. Tell your body basically that you are you have to pick heavy things and you need more muscle, and then you need better hormones. Your testosterone increases. Everything works in tandem to improve your physiology, not just how you look. It's not just for how you look. If you want to look better, of course, you lift heavier things, and you go more to the gym, and you do a more specialized routine. But if you were to just do sort of functional training or resistance training 2 or 3 times a week, you're going to improve your fitness level enormously. So
Absolutely.
That's what.
And for my listeners, real quick, Luis, when he talks about the endocrine response, whenever you hear endocrine, think hormones. It's what your response that is your body's going to have as far as its response to what hormones get upregulated and increased or decreased. So when he talks about endocrine, think hormones.
Exactly, because that's also another thing. People blame their hormones for because they're overweight. And yet it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You get overweight because you ate more than you needed, and this down-regulates your hormones, and then they're not work like they should. So you get even more fat, and then you get more hungry, and it's like a never-ending cycle.
Yep.
You want to improve your hormones? Well, start doing strength training, and also adjust your diet, and you will get the best of both worlds. And the circle will reverse when everything will improve upon itself. But okay, the point here was that some people, because we promote strength training for the reasons I just described, and because some of the people who moderate the group actually do bodybuilding, they think of us as bullies, which we really are not. Like, I never go to another forum unless I'm really called or invited, and start correcting people. I never do that. Like, they ask me for my opinion, I will gladly go and tell my opinion or debate if I'm needed or called. etc. But I'm not like going to another forum and saying, no, you're all doing it wrong or whatever. Like, I don't really have time for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I really respect what you guys do. You know, you calling or correcting folks, or when Tyler jumps on and does that, and whenever you guys do that, you usually also include the sources of
Of course,
what your belief is based on. You know, where you're getting your information, and then
because
that legitimizes what you're saying, and also what, you know, because a lot of people can talk about, you know, oh well, I read this, or this study said this, and maybe it never happened, or if it did, it's a study that was done so poorly, or in such non applicable position conditions that it shouldn't even have weight. And so that's what I really love about what you, or if Tyler jumps on there or somebody, that you guys cite your sources and explain where this is coming from.
the thing is that even when people do cite sources, some people, and it's no offense, are not really, they have not prepared themselves to actually know how to read a study.
Yes.
Not just it's like reading a headline from a newspaper, right?
Right.
You
Mm-hmm.
have to actually read the whole story, like the whole study, to see what the actual study conclusions are and how the study was developed, if there
Yep.
are any conflicts of
Yep.
interests, etc. Because, for example, one of the main things that we have outside of people who follow keto is the classic negatives of doing a ketogenic diet. For example, that it causes osteoporosis or organ damage
Yeah.
or blah blah. And if you look at their sources or where they've heard that, it's some of the effects that it happened to the children who were on their ketogenic diet,
Mm-hmm.
were doing keto to treat epilepsy. But again, if you actually look at the study, the purpose of this study was to see everything that happened to these children, and the children were doing a super high fat version of keto because they were children who were on very how would I say it, they were having the worst seizures ever. They
Yeah.
were not even the typical children who were epileptic. These were children that were having seizures like 2 or 3 times a day. So they
Yeah, as
needed
far as epileptics, these kids were the worst of the worst. They were the most
exactly.
severe cases.
So they were taking in this experimental approach to keto, and yeah, because they were on very low protein, because they were on very high fat, they were not getting the adequate nutrients, but they were also being fed with a formula, not
Yeah.
even real food.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this is not the approach that people should be doing when doing a ketogenic diet. So of course, if you go and do a bad ketogenic diet like these children were doing, you're probably going to develop some of the issues they had. But
Mm-hmm.
this is something that does not happen if one eats a well-formulated ketogenic diet with adequate protein, adequate vegetables,
Yeah.
adequate minerals and nutrients.
Yeah,
You will never.
using the real whole foods approach and not a formula, a
Exactly.
sludge that's created.
Exactly. So for example, that's how people should actually, before supplying a study or evidence, try to understand what the evidence is actually saying.
Yeah.
And if they don't, you can always ask, like, hey, what is this study saying? Can you clear it for me? If you like give it to us, we will gladly read it. That's what we do every day. Tyler and I spend at least 5 hours a day of our time either learning about one thing, or studying, or reviewing, or even between us, we and the mods. That's why we do for fun. We are nerds. We told you
Yeah.
we have a group for Keto Games mods where we throw studies at us basically
Uh-huh.
to see what conclusions we get and what we learn from the study and how we can approach it, and even if it's advisable to use it with our clients, or even share it on the main Keto Games group.
Right. And I love that that's how you over the years have grown that fact, that FAQ on the Ketogane subreddit, it to just be this monstrosities, because every time you learn something new, take a new piece of information, a new study or something, you just keep adding it on to that
That's
to the
yeah.
fact,
So
and so that's
you're
awesome.
never going to be actually able to learn by heart the fact because it's always evolving.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So so getting back on, so we talked about protein, and then we just had mentioned about the studies and those kids weren't using whole foods. With the Ketogains approach, it's you're not reliant on a whole lot of supplements. You can use protein powders if you need to use them to achieve your protein goal for the day. But really it's focused on quality whole foods, getting your right micronutrients. Tell us a little bit more about that. Why can't we just be taking slim fast shakes and, lean cuisines and
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Ketogains follows a whole food approach mainly for two things, or well, for various things. First, we want to keep the diet simple and not expensive.
mm-hmm.
Like, here's we have a nutrient hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that you should focus first is on calories.
Mm-hmm.
Calories are your setting point. Calories do matter to a point, but
Yeah.
energy balance is key. Like you know the principle is energy cannot be created or destroyed. It
Yeah,
just
the
can.
first law of thermodynamics. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we know that the body is not a closed system, like we said at the beginning. When you start doing a ketogenic diet, your body is not really tuned to using all this energy, so we'll burn it or waste it in a way. That's why, again, some people can lose weight even if they are not counting or ingesting more calories that they theoretically
Mm-hmm.
need. But it doesn't mean that they are not, like, calories don't count.
Yeah.
So again, if you really want to gain weight or lose weight, you actually have to have a setting point or something to compare. So that's why you use calories.
Mm-hmm.
Because also that's like, here's another thing that people may not know. The body really doesn't use calories. The body uses ATP, which is a molecule that we use to create energy or to harness energy, because we don't create it, we harness.
Yeah, it's the body's currency. It's the body's energetic currency.
But nobody really calculates, or you will not look at ADP on for calculate calories from certain food. You cannot, like, it's harder.
Yeah.
So what we know and what everybody uses, the language is calories, so we have to abide by them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Okay, so again, calories, then not all calories are the same. So we have macros. So the second pillar is macronutrient composition. It's not the same to get 500 calories of protein, because of some things we said before. Your body even burns more energy if you ingest more protein.
Mm-hmm.
And needs are required depending on your lean body mass. And then 500 calories of fat, which is just energy, or 500 calories of carbs, which is also just energy. So the second pillar is the actual macro composition of set calories.
Yeah.
Right? Then the third pillar would be micronutrient needs,
mm-hmm.
which are both electrolytes and vitamins. Your body cannot function properly without electrolytes and vitamins. Vitamins are not just for your skin to look smooth or to be energized. No, vitamins are also involved in a lot of metabolic processes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're deficient in one or another, you will eventually have an issue with, like, that you get bad skin or bad hair is not the result of just because you're missing a protein, a vitamin, but it means that there's a process that is not being completed hormonally wise, and the result that you will see is that. But eventually there's going to be a lot of other things that it's going to be happening inside your body that you need them for. That's why you need vitamins.
Yeah.
Then the next pillar is nutrient timing. This is where intermittent fasting comes, or if you're going to be eating every 3 or 4 hours, or if you're going to have the shake before or after training.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the very end, the last pillar is supplements. And normally we see people trying to fix everything with a supplement instead of looking at the pillar number 1 and pillar number 2, which are the most important.
Yeah. And unfortunately, our quick fix culture, that's kind of where we're at, is everybody just wants to take a pill or a potion, a powder, something outside of themselves that's going to magically fix them. Where really supplements do have their place, but it's at the very end once you have all of this other stuff figured out and corrected.
So you want a pill to block carbohydrates. Okay, so why don't you not eat carbohydrates in the first place? right?
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing is okay. So if you're getting correctly pillar number 3, then you don't need a vitamin. Why are you going to spend more money on vitamins,
Mm-hmm.
for example, on supplements, when if you probably had like the Hulk shake I suggested a while ago,
Uh-huh.
you're going to be probably getting 300% of the RDA of vitamin C, for example.
Right. Yep.
So again, whole food will always, unless you have a very specific deficiency or for any reason whatsoever you're not able to eat like some kind of food, it's you really won't need that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, another supplement, classic fat burners. Well, again, why do you need a fat burner? And believe me, I tried mostly all of them, like until 2005.
Uh-huh.
The new fat burner that came, Lipo6, Oxytrin, whatever I used to spend, and I thought that if I stopped using them, I would get fat. Nothing happened. I actually looked more lean and lost more weight once I got my macros dialed in.
Uh-huh.
Don't spend 40, they become a rent. Don't spend 30 or $40 a month on a supplement that it's just messing with your mind because you think you need it.
Yeah.
That what it actually does. Most, for example, fat burners are just glorified caffeine pills.
Yeah.
You want energy? Go buy a $5 100 pill bottle of caffeine. That's the only thing that works as a fat burner because it may increase a little bit your metabolic rate, but not that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's again the last layer. So what we suggest actually for supplements on ketogens, okay, if you are strength training, okay, use creatine. Yeah. Why? Because that's one of the most studied supplements out there that is not just for strength training, but it's also a nootropic.
Yeah.
It also helps with your brain health and your neurons and nerves, and it will give you a little bit more energy. Okay, that's one we do suggest.
And it's
Another
not that
one,
expensive.
and it's super cheap. Like it's gonna like you buy 300 grams or something or half a kilo, tub, and it will probably last you a year or more because you only have to use 3 or 5 grams a day. So it's like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $40 a year or less.
Exactly.
Exactly. Then, for example, protein. Okay, if you're strength training, you could use protein, or you can eat a extra chicken breast on days you train. It's up to you. You don't have to. It's whatever you want. So it's an option. Outside of that, like unless you're very serious about strength training, we have a supplement guide on ketogens, but there's a differentiation between a necessity and extra,
Yeah.
So you really don't need anything if your macros are like from real food. Again, in regards to whey shakes, yes, you could be having like your 120 or 100 grams of protein in whey shakes, but what's the negative issue here? It's that whey shakes are pre-digested food.
Yeah.
So you lose a little bit of the thermic effect of food, of protein, when you take them pre-digested. Mm-hmm. Your body doesn't have to work that much to actually use it.
Your body has to work a heck of a lot harder to break down a steak or break down chicken breast versus already pulverized protein powder.
Everybody, I think, has had the meat sweats, right? So you won't get meat sweats if you ingest 100 grams of protein shakes.
Right.
You won't. That's why you get the meat sweats. So that's one. The other is, like, I have people like, I'm hungry and I already had my 100 grams of protein. Okay, what do you have? 3 shakes. Well, there you have it. Like, shakes are liquid and they will be digested very quickly.
Yeah, would you have been hungry if you had ate 3 cans of tuna or 3 chicken breasts or?
And added with, I don't know, 150 or 200 grams of spinach.
Mm-hmm.
You get like a big salad that you're probably not even going to be able to finish.
Right.
And you are below your macro. So then you're going to call on us and cry because you don't want to finish your damn salad, but you need still like 50 grams of protein a day because you've only had 50. That's the kind of like call outs that we like to have. Like, I don't want to have my protein. That's okay. It's working. Not the ones that I've already had 3,000 calories and still hungry. Wow. No.
Right. Um, so going on to from the Whole Foods, and we talked a little bit about supplements and had a couple of recommendations. Let's use that as a segue to the importance of electrolytes. It's because when folks, unfortunately, a lot of folks will try keto or what they think of is keto, stay away from, and they won't do it with Whole Foods. They'll do, their buttered coffees and all of that stuff, and fried bologna sandwiches, or, fried bologna and cheese, not just foods not really dense with any real nutrition. And those first 3 days or a week, they just feel absolutely terrible, and they might get muscle cramps, they'll get fatigue, headaches, all of that stuff, because they're not. And also, as you and I know, when you first get into ketosis, like you said earlier, you're going to be depleting your glycogen stores, you're going to be depleting, losing a lot of water weight, and with a lot of that water weight's going to go some of your sodium stores. So let's
Exactly.
talk a little bit about the quote unquote keto flu, what it is, and what the importance of electrolyte is to battling that.
Okay. So normally, like you said, especially if you are consuming lots of processed food, the processed food that already has sodium added in, based on the USDA requirements, which are basically around the same in all the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already getting adequate sodium, and because you're getting lots of carbohydrates, carbohydrates retain water.
Yep.
So we normally don't have to actively supplement sodium or other electrolytes. But when you start a whole food diet, not just keto, maybe you go paleo.
Yeah.
And paleo, I mean real paleo, not the one that most people normally do, which is just like ketofying or paleofying foods.
Yeah.
When you actually, everything you eat is, I'm not saying that farmed or so, not the extremist approach, but just to go to a whole market type supermarket and buy everything either frozen, and you make all your food preparations yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, again, have to be farm raised, or going all that approach.
Yeah.
If you start eating like that and you don't actively use sodium and some of the other electrolytes, you may start to feel unwell.
Yes.
What is this unwellness? It means a little bit tired, lethargic. Maybe you get headaches, and in some cases you may even get diarrhea.
Mm-hmm.
So the diarrhea is another thing altogether. This is called gut dysbiosis, and it's basically because I'm going to go very quickly with this. Your gut, your intestines have certain bacteria that live in them, and this is normal.
Yep.
They help digest food. So depending on which diet you are currently doing, and especially if you come from a high carbohydrate diet, you have a higher number of certain bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
So if you stop eating carbohydrates, and especially processed food, these bacteria will die out. And then the other types of bacteria might grow.
Mm-hmm.
So you may get a disbalance in the force, so to say. And all the ones that died will cause diarrhea. So that's why some people who start the diet get diarrhea in one way. Another reason of the diarrhea is probably if you start keto with ingesting lots of fats, like a bulletproof coffee and blah blah blah. When you used to eat none or very little, you may experience that your body has not produced enough bile to actually help with digestion of this amount of fat that you're ingesting. So we will also get diarrhea from eating that much fat. So that's explanation.
Or just adding too much MCT oil to your coffee.
As well, exactly. So that's why some people get stomach upset or diarrhea when they start a ketogenic diet. In regards to the actual keto flu, which is again being tired, lethargic, even muscle pain in the pain in the muscles, and so it's because deficiency in electrolytes, mainly potassium, sodium, and magnesium. So what people can do actively to get over it quickly or not experience it at all is to eat lots of green vegetables. For once, if you eat lots of spinach or adequate spinach, you have to eat like a lot. Zucchini, everything that is green or greenish has adequate magnesium mostly, and also potassium. If you really need potassium, well, you can also use avocado. It's basically like I sometimes do this kind of exercise with people, especially doctors, and I ask them, okay, tell me the first food that you think with high vitamin C, and everybody says orange. Well, no, broccoli, for example.
Yeah.
Broccoli has 100% more vitamin C than orange. You do the same with potassium.
And broccoli has more calcium than a glass of milk a lot of the time.
Exactly. So, like, people think a lot of the vitamins from what we have been told by TV or magazines. Like, the same happens with potassium, and everybody thinks a banana. No, eat an avocado.
Yep.
Again, green beans, kale has more potassium than a banana. So again, if you ingest green vegetables on a daily basis, you're probably going to be covered on magnesium and potassium. And then you only need to actively supplement sodium, not salt. Salt is different than sodium, and people forget about it. Yeah. It's like a 45 or 50% difference in ratio. So if you need optimally between 5 to 7 grams of sodium a day. The difference is on the person's size, and if the person lives in hot weather, and if the person is exercising or sweating a lot.
Yeah.
So you can start with 5 grams, which would be around 15 grams of actual salt. And it also depends on the type of salt. Not all salt has the same amount of sodium. For example, some types of Himalayan salt have less sodium than traditional sea salt, for example. That's why it tastes a little bit milder or milder, whatever you pronounce it. So I was saying sodium like between 5 to 7 grams. And also you have to distribute the salt evenly throughout the day. It's not that you go and shove 15 grams of salt unless you want to get diarrhea.
Yeah.
Again, so you can do like a keto beverage where you put like 15 grams of salt in 1 or 2 liters of water, add a little bit of vegetables in it, even stevia or whatever, and drink it throughout the day.
Yep.
There's no issue there. Or like worst case scenario is, I don't like to promote this very much, but you can also buy Powerade Zero.
Yep.
And add a little bit, like 1 teaspoon of salt to it, and drink maybe 3 or 4 throughout the day.
Yeah.
You have to go by feel. Yeah. Some people, and also the more you stay on ketosis, the less that you have to actively supplement sodium. But at the start, you have to do it because your body basically flushed all the sodium out.
Yeah, when the last time I started keto and I was feeling crappy, I drank some extra, like bouillon or something like that, and that helped out, and it just lasts for a few days, and that gets me, kind of on a tangent. I'd like to ask what you think about this, but we're all just kind of complainers about, oh well, I tried this for 2 days and it made me feel awful, so I just stopped doing it, and it's like, when we're switching to low carbohydrate ketosis, going through that keto adaptation period, which can take a lot longer than what people want to acknowledge, we are fundamentally changing the fuel source that our body is going to be using. There's going to be some adaptation to that. It's just like somebody who's never jogged in their life or lifted a weight in their life, and they started lifting and they can barely move the next day because they haven't been adapted to it. But you don't hear people complaining like, oh, well, I lifted weights for the first time and I can barely lift up my hands high enough to shampoo my hair, so lifting must be bad for me. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, and actually there are people who complain that way about lifting, but
well, yeah.
The thing is that people, especially in this day and age, I think that they become too weight complacent to actual having a little bit of discomfort.
Yeah.
And discomfort is not bad. Just yesterday, I was on a discussion on a Facebook. It was not even a group. It was on a post from Ivor Cummins. And I don't know if you were actively following it, but like I actually said, and I even have a post about it on Ketogains about hunger. And
Yeah,
this is
I
something
was
that
reading that. Yeah.
people who actually like get mad when you tell them that if you are on a weight loss diet, eventually you may experience hunger
Mm-hmm.
because it's a part of any weight loss protocol. And people uh, become angry when you tell them this.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that it's like if you want to buy a car, you have to save money. You cannot overspend past what you earn.
Yeah.
And the same applies, like if you want to take this seriously, the same applies to dieting.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you will get hungry, and hungry is like in this day and age, sorry, but I don't think that most people have actually been ever hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Hungry is when you have not eaten for 1 or 2 days, when your stomach actually starts to feel empty and makes noises. That's being hungry.
Mm-hmm.
You start to get nervous because you have not eaten, or start to get cravings. That's not hungry.
Yeah.
That's you just being bored because you have been trained, like most people in America have, to eat and succumb to every whim of your body like a spoiled child. And this is probably something that people are going to hate me for this, and probably going to be turning off your
Yeah.
pod right now. But again, I don't say things because I mean. I think I say things because they have to be said,
Yeah.
and it's the truth, and it's an uncomfortable truth. We have become spoiled to actually eat at every time and be complacent and succumb to any signal that our body sends. Like, we are not programmed to eat 24/7.
No.
If we are overweight, it's because there is a disbalance in the actual calories that we're ingesting
Mm-hmm.
versus we are using.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody gets overweight just because they are not fat animals in nature. Outside of yeah, always people say, yeah, an elephant. No, that's their nature.
Yeah.
But
That's
outside of
yeah.
that, like, there are no overweight animals, and it's because their body is working perfectly. And so for your body to not work perfectly, it's because you had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I know that I'm not fat shaming, and I'm not saying that it's not, um, because, like, I understand that it's not all our fault,
Right.
but it's also our fault in a way because we are not educated. I was fat as a kid
Yeah.
because I didn't do any exercise.
Right.
Okay, I didn't like it, but because I ate more than I actually needed. And I know that I ate, like, I used to hide on my mother's on the cupboard, and ate like a big a bunch of French fries,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't went out until I finished them.
Yeah.
And don't tell me that it was not my fault. I did that on purpose.
Yeah.
And lots of people who are overweight, they are drinking their Frappuccino lattes that has 500 calories, or the
Mm-hmm.
new Starbucks unicorn.
Yeah, that unicorn type
Yeah,
of diabetes.
and
Yeah.
they know that it's not good for them. They
Right.
probably don't know that it's 1,000 calories,
Right.
but it doesn't mean that calories don't count, and then that they are allowed to.
Yeah.
Or going to McDonald's and asking for three triple burgers with a supersized Coca-Cola and
Mm-hmm.
French fries and ice cream, and it's not the responsibility. Sorry, but it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You can stop when you want to.
Right. And
No,
that's one thing that, I try to I don't coach a whole lot. My go-to my profession is dentistry. I am a primal health coach, and I take a handful of people on once in a while because this is my passion, um, is getting people healthy. But it's never going to be my full-time job because I'm a dentist, and that's what I did most of my training for. But anyway, getting back to a point here, I try to balance things out with it's not necessarily your fault, especially like with me growing up. I don't blame my parents for me growing up because, yes, we had some. I kind of ate like a typical kid. I ate the same cereals. I ate the same school lunches. I still played sports and all that stuff, but I was growing up very morbidly obese. And so back then, knowing how carbohydrates impact insulin, all this stuff, how it triggers food cravings, all of that. We didn't know then what we know now, and
Exactly.
now we don't have that same excuse of ignorance. You know what I
Ex-
mean?
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not the fault of the people, but you can always educate yourself, and
Yes.
education brings power. And this is why this is our the three pillars in keto gains that we have is education, empowerment, and achievement.
Yep.
We educate people so that you can empower yourself, and then you don't have that excuse.
Mm-hmm.
You can, like I said, like in my household at first, like my grandfather owned a chocolate factory. So what can I tell you? I had all the candies. My house and my grandfather's house was like Willy Wonka's. I had all the chocolate in the world at my disposal.
Uh huh.
That's also one of the reasons why I was a fat kid, and I loved dark chocolate with passion.
Uh huh.
But as I love it so much, I have to tread carefully on it.
Yeah.
And I know my limits. And again, I'm not saying that it's your fault, especially if you lived in a society where everything like is geared to make you fat.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have friends that are also like in that, everything revolves around food. Most families, like here in Latin America, everything revolves around food with family.
Mm-hmm.
So you go there and there's this, climate that is everything. It this here, that there, very much like in the States as well.
Yeah.
So
That
it's
yeah,
your in a way.
carbohydrates, flours, corns, all that stuff is very ingrained in both of our societies.
Exactly.
Pun
So
intended, but
I know that it's hard, but it can be done.
yeah.
It's you have to like disassociate a little bit how you see food, and you have to learn. It takes a little bit of willpower, and that's what what I wanted to get to. On this conversation, I had people getting mad, and their actual response was saying that life should be about pleasure or
Mm-hmm.
something in that regard. And I agree, but you also can find pleasure in other things outside of food.
Yeah.
I think that if you have a bad relationship with food, or let's not call it a bad relationship, but if your goal is losing weight,
Yeah.
you could probably re-educate or rewire your brain and probably get a better hobby. And not everything has to revolve around food. But it's because you're only going to be suffering if
Yeah.
your main pleasure in life is eating a pizza and then you cannot have it because you're doing this diet. Then probably you should not be doing the diet, or probably you should train yourself to get a new hobby. Why don't you go and learn guitar,
Mm-hmm.
or why don't you go and take a walk or get a dog? I don't know. There are
Yeah.
like hundred a million things that you can do instead of thinking all the day about food.
And that's the thing, which is going to bring more value and pleasure to your life, eating that pizza and feeling like crap afterwards, or being fit enough to go surfing, or go play with your kids,
Exactly.
or go play sports with your kids or something like that, or go on a long hike with your family, or
Or even in regards to doing keto, okay, you're doing keto, but you don't need probably to add 5 sticks of butter or one square or whatever amount to your steak.
mm-hmm.
Like it happened to me. I've seen it with lots of people. Like, okay, you're going to fry eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Have you actually tried to using half of 1 teaspoon of coconut oil to fry the eggs, or olive oil, or even using pan
Mm-hmm.
versus using 3 spoonfuls?
Yeah.
Have you actually done it? No. Have to try it and see if there's a big difference in taste. I guarantee you that there's not going to be that much of a difference.
Right.
Even if it's that much of a difference, you can train your bots to learn this new taste,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a 300 or so difference in calories. That it can be the difference between losing weight and not losing weight.
Yeah, and
So
I
the same
like what you
happens.
I like what you said about retraining. I just finished Rob Wolf's book Wired to Eat, and with that 30-day reset and everything, you do notice that when you're no longer taking tons of artificial sweeteners, taking copious amounts of um, outside fats and stuff, and you reset your taste buds, things that usually used to not taste sweet start to taste sweet. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same happens with coffee. Try black coffee. Probably you're not going to like it.
Yeah, it's going to
Like,
be bitter as all get out starting out.
but like if you go and have a Starbucks, likely, like I say to some of my clients, you don't want a Starbucks. You don't want coffee. You want a milkshake.
Yeah.
So let's just accept that for what it is. So then first train yourself to like, black coffee and learn the pleasure of it, because it's actually, if you get like good quality coffee, like you roast it yourself, have it on your house, instead of just like the regular black coffee that doesn't taste or give anything and that doesn't have any aromas, makes a lot of difference. So get a good quality coffee, train yourself, probably start with maybe adding 5 drops of stevia, then add 3.
Yeah.
Then over time you will find that you probably like it more without anything added.
Yep.
And you train yourself to learn and not also learn to enjoy different things in life.
Absolutely.
The best thing, and also another like added bonus of doing this, is that you actually free yourself, and actually want to find yourself you spend less, because you don't need all these additives that you were always like. You spend probably, I don't know, $15 a month on sweeteners. You take them out and you have $15 more to spend on higher quality food.
Yep.
You probably bought, I don't know how many Diet Cokes a week. Okay, leave them out, and you're probably going to have that more income for other things.
Yeah, it goes back to folks who buy a carton of cigarettes a week and they quit smoking, and now all of a sudden they have all this money, and they save up all this money that they used to spend for smoking, and they can now afford to go on a cruise every year.
Exactly. Or like I've seen it with people like, no, I cannot afford those expensive weightlifting shoes. Okay, now they start the diet and they find that they're spending way less on food because they're going out less, and they're eating more high quality foods that they prepare at home.
Yep.
Now they have, like you said, $500 extra a month that they didn't have before.
Yep.
And now they can even afford a commercial gym with buying lots of new clothes, to go and look and better and live well, and and you just did one small change in your life.
Exactly. Yep. Before I forget, I had a couple more things to ask you, and then we'll probably start wrapping up here. One of the things I think that's one of the best resources, and it's totally free, that you guys have made available, is the Keto Gains Macro Calculator. And when I start off with people, that's usually the first thing I go to. Most folks come to me knowing that I know keto, and so keto's all the rage. It's the big buzzword right now. So people who start working with me, they want to do the ketosis thing. But even if I don't use ketogenic diet with somebody, I always still use your macro calculator as the launching off point for that. And so tell my listeners a little bit about the macro calculator. What makes it different from other calculators you can get on, and how did you develop that?
Okay, basically, up until 2 years ago, that was Excel based, and that was a tool I made for myself to calculate my own macros. Back when I was, doing a bodybuilding thing for me, and so and I implemented it basically to get better results on me, because I come from a business perspective and a major. I follow this saying that goes, that which cannot be measured cannot be managed.
Yeah.
So I try to know everything, how many calories here, how many macros there. And the same goes along with training, how much weight you're lifting, how many sets, reps, etc. So that's how I developed the calculator. And then I decided to make a web version. And some people don't like it, and they complain that the calculator tells them that I have to eat less calories than other calculators told them. But then I tell them, well, but you're losing weight with this one.
Right.
This one tells you what has to be said, but you don't want to hear. So you're probably eating 2,000 calories on another calculator, and you're not going to be losing weight, and you're probably going to be happy until you don't lose weight.
Yep.
And with this one, you're going to be probably a little bit freaked because you said you're going to see that your actual caloric needs are going to be less than you expect. But again, you're supposed to be eating whole food. If you are going to be eating 1,800 or 1,500 calories from processed crap, you're probably going to be hungry.
Right.
If you're going to be eating 1,200 calories from real food, likely you're going to be crying that it's more than enough food that you actually can eat.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And we use the basis to calculate is the Catch-McCradle formula to calculate energy expenditure. And that's it. We have some tweaks, and then we actually have a revised version, but that's the one we use with actual paying customers that has more algorithms inside that actually take into account if the person has PCOS or Hashimoto's, levels of insulin resistance, lots of other variables that Tyler and I have been incorporating on our own tools. The one that you have there is very basic, and we'll get results for almost anyone.
Yeah.
So, and he also uses our recommendations, of course, for protein, carbs, and fat breakdown. So it's a sure way to kickstart, your weight loss journey.
Great. And like I said, I will put a link up to that, to the macros calculator on the show notes. And I believe I also put it up on episode 00, my introduction episode, because I was talking about what I was doing and mentioned it there as well. So it's probably on that episode show notes as well. Last thing, because I get this question all the time, as I'm sure you do too, with the buzzword of ketosis, everybody's also talking about or pushing products with exogenous ketones in them. And there's, I think, a lot of misinformation that drinking exogenous ketone supplements are going to give you the benefits or be the same as having a diet where you're running on endogenous ketones or ketones made from your own body and own breakdown of your own fat stores. What's been your experience? Because I'm not totally against exogenous ketone supplements. I think they have their place, and I think they can use a tool, but they should not be viewed as, I don't think a lot of folks need to be on them daily unless if it's for specific conditions. But I think they can have their place and can be useful, but I don't think that they should be seen as panaceas as a lot of the marketers want to make them seen as. What's been your experience with that?
Well, basically, very much what you said. The thing is, they're basically sold on a multi-level format, and they're not very cheap.
Nope.
So they use, some of them, not all of them, use shady tactics, and not all the companies. There's it's not that the company is bad per se, any particular company, but some of the sellers, they use shady tactics and oversell the actual benefits of the product, so which I will explain right now. So as you said, the products do have a place. What I don't like about some of them is that they are way expensive for what they actually do. So you have probably paying a small mortgage amount, or they have people paying a small mortgage amount and telling them some benefits that they will not really get from the actual product. For example, they sell them as a weight loss tool.
Yep.
And like I said, the actual company may not say that, but some people say that. They try to, because the goal is to have as many people on their way of their multi-level pyramid. Well, that's how they promote it. And the real thing about the supplements is they do have a place. They do work for some things, but they're not just like, here's what they don't do. They sell them to you with the excuse of having ketones in your body, and then you're in ketosis, and then you lose body fat. It doesn't happen like that.
Right.
People need to understand that there's a difference between endogenous ketone production, that is when your own body produces ketones, versus exogenous ketones, and this is when you introduce ketones to your body, and this is what these supplements do. So if you are naturally in ketosis because you took carbohydrates out of your diet, your body starts to burn your own body fat. And then one of the products that comes out is these ketones. So your body uses these ketones as alternate sources of energy. So here is when you actually lose fat. You're burning your own body fat and using it as fuel. That's one natural process, and you will always produce ketones in one way or another, even if you're not on a ketogenic diet. Yeah. If you do lots of exercise, if there's while you have not been eating, for example, probably everybody who wakes up after an 8-hour fast, basically sleeping, or a little bit more, has a little bit of ketones in their body. It's a natural process of the human body. It's an alternate fuel source. Yep. So for weight loss, you really don't need them. Then they sell these exogenous ketones because they say, okay, you have ketones in your body, you will burn more body fat. That's not really true. What happens is, actually, if you have exogenous ketones in your body, this is a way of how I explain it, your body actually stops burning your own body fat because you already have the ketones. Your body, and remember that the body's goal is survival and using the less energy possible. Yeah. So if you give exogenous ketones to your body, it becomes a classic saying of why buy the cow when you get the milk for free.
That
your
makes
body
sense, yeah.
Is to say, why am I going to spend calories and do all this process to get ketones when you already give me these ketones? I'm going to use the disposable ketones you already gave me, and then I'm going to use that as energy. And yes, this happens to people. They will get energy. They will feel probably not so lethargic when they're probably on a deficit. They will probably feel energized. They will probably get more concentration. And those are some of the benefits of ketos. They do have, like I said before. Absolutely. But at the expense of burning less of your own body fat. Yeah. So you can use them in moderation. For example, for that case, probably you're going to have an exam, let's say, or you need to work like 5 hours on something very dense. Okay, probably you could use ketones, but know that probably you're going to be burning a little bit less body fat during that phase. So that I would not use them like some people suggest, like they take 3 or 5 portions a day. That's crazy. Yeah. Right. Or in my case, I do use them, for example, when I'm going to train. When I'm going to be doing heavy strength training, doing heavy deadlifts and heavy squats, or even going to do a powerlifting competition, I probably want to use them. And I use them eventually because it's extra disposable energy on top of what I'm already producing. Yeah. Because my body already produces ketones and uses fatty acids at a rate. But if I want to amp that, then they have their place. Yeah. So that's basically one of the times when I would suggest, like if you're a person who is very active and finds themselves very tired, and also because normally these exogenous ketones, most brands already add to them calcium as well as potassium and sodium. So it's also a good way to get your electrolytes. Yep. And that's why you also feel energetic with them. So probably they can help, especially during the transition. When you're starting keto, you could probably use them, and it's gonna make the entry into ketosis better and faster for some people.
Yeah, make it a little bit more smoother.
Exactly, and again, it's not required. But if you have the extra money to spend and want to try them, okay. But use them along with a well-formulated ketogenic diet where you're eating adequate protein, lots of vegetables, and keep a tab on the actual calories you're ingesting for actual and better and faster fat loss. So it doesn't happen like you said it happened to you, or it happens to a lot of people. It's better, in my recommendation, to start with a responsible rate of calories, so you get a more steady fat loss. It's like when you want to jump into cold water. Probably it's better to just jump straight in from the start, right? Rather than go it gradually. It really depends on the people and the approach. I prefer the all or nothing approach. It's better.
Yeah.
In case, it's same as when you want to lose weight. So we could lose weight faster and be done with it and then go back to maintenance calories instead of spending 2 years like losing 2 pounds and then gaining them again. And that's when I find people who say like they're tired of living all their life in a diet. Yeah, because you lived all your life in a diet because you've never done it properly.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to maybe man up and do the diet you really should. Lose those 20 or 30 or 40 pounds. Yeah, it will require sacrifice, but you lose them. Yeah. And then go back to maintenance calories and you can live a normal life like you want it. Instead of being for 20 years, like I said, on a diet.
Yeah. Just constantly up, down. Exactly. Just losing and regaining the same 5 pounds over and over. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Luis, we are at 2-hour mark, so I will be breaking this up into 2 parts. Thank you so much for your time with me today, and thank you so much for the value that you've been giving me and my audience. This is awesome stuff. I think this type of message is something that we really need to get out there to really kind of bust some myths or really kind of get through some of the noise and misinformation around the science of nutrition and ketogenic diets. So, Luis, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Luis, stay on for just a sec. I'll talk with you some more. Listeners, if you enjoyed part 1 and 2 of these episodes, I really urge you to check Luis out some more. Real easy to get a hold of. Or look at his stuff. There's ketogains.com. If you search for Keto Gains on Facebook, you'll find the closed Facebook group. Send a request. They might vet you a little bit, make sure you're not, anybody, there to kind of troll or be undercover or anything. But if you're there to legitimately learn and ask questions and share, they'll accept you. He's remind me again, Luis, what are your handles on like Twitter and Instagram if people want to find you there?
Sure. You can look me for under Keto Gains. It's me and Tyler under everything that it's Keto Gains. If you want to look at me personally, you can look for Luis _Villasenor, either on Twitter or in Instagram, and of course on Facebook. I also there very active.
Great. And listeners, I will put those links in the show notes so that way, if you're driving or something, you don't have to get in a wreck trying to look that stuff up. So, all right, Luis, is there anything else you'd like to tell my listeners or get out there in the universe?
Well, for those who want, like everything that we do in Keto Gains is for free. We have training routines. We have, like you said, a microcalculator tool. We always try to give advice if you are in the group and you have any questions when we have time. Like you have to understand that like as much as we do this 24/7 basically, if we have time and like we are there, we will gladly answer the questions that we get, especially if you tag us. Like it's not like you make an open question, you may get a million different responses. But we also do active one-on-one and group coaching. So we have these, you can go to our webpage, ketogains.com or ketogainsbootcamps.com, and you can get information of our most successful training course, which is a 6-week, not just training, but it's a 6-week education process where we teach people all the ins and outs about general nutrition and dieting with a well-structured training program, which is basically, like I said, our most successful program, which we have been doing for about 2 years now and had like 2,000 graduates already. People do one and then they want to do another one, and we have people doing all of them, like in unison,
right? And
the incredible results. Basically, the best results that you see on the Transformation Fridays on the group are from boot campers, we call them.
Yeah.
So if you want more information, make sure to either send a mail to info@ketogains.com or just visit the page. We're about to start one on the 24th of July. So if you want to hop in, you still have time. Another thing, if you have people who want to learn more about training and nutrition in general, this is not just from Ketogains. I suggest the Bayesian Bodybuilding personal training course done by Menno Henselmans. This is for people who want to learn more about nutrition and training, or who want to maybe get a job in nutrition. So all Ketogains official coaches have taken this course and passed it. And for people who actually speak Spanish and want to do it, I'm working now with Menno Henselmans on doing the first edition of the personal training course. We're going to start on the 20 on September 22.
Okay, great.
It's going to be another business venture that I think is going to help a lot of people. And it's if there's like one, it's not because I'm doing it, but for real, this is the best course I've taken from all the ones I've taken regarding nutrition and training, because it's everything evidence-based. Like you said, everything we do is evidence-based. Well, one of our pillars where we learn to differentiate the actual science versus raw science, and how to get a better approach to both dieting and nutrition is with this course. That's why it's a requirement for us Ketogains coaches to actually pass it.
I think I just found my new. I just found my new studying hobby is going to be checking that out.
If you already have taken the Primal Health Coach,
yep,
I think this one is another one that it's worth taking.
Awesome, very cool. Yeah, and I got to attest to the Ketogains boot camp, guys. Really check that out. I did it. I probably won't do this July one, but the one after that I'll probably get back on. I didn't hit the one that I was doing as well as I should have, because life kind of got in the way between my practices and everything like that. So I'm actually going to be this next Monday taking all that information from that camp that I was into and following it again, because now that life's kind of calmed down a little bit. But probably, if you guys start one probably in October or November, something like that, I'll probably join you on that one as well.
We have one every 7 weeks.
Yeah.
If you want to hop on this one and you have the time, you send me a PM and we can review that. Don't worry.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really urge you to check out Luis and what he's doing over at Ketogains. It's life-changing stuff. You get on that Ketogains group, watch Transformation Tuesdays or Flex Fridays, and you are going to see some amazing things that people have been able to accomplish using this structured approach. So, Luis, again, thank you. Hold on a sec, and I'm Ketodonist listeners, thank you again for checking out the show. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, and if you could leave a written review, I'll love you forever, because that's how we really grow. So if you guys enjoy the show, please let us know any feedback you have, and we will try to keep delivering great content and bringing more and more value to you. So until I see you again, take care.